Man, Diego Pavia will become a Vandy legend. Yeah, you heard that right.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you can get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, Kurt Page, welcome back. Welcome back, man. And guess what? Vandy's huge road win against Kentucky was a result of a series of offseason moves that we've talked about since January that may alter the course of the program. Coach Steiner, Coach Kill, Coach Beck have all been great moves, but is bringing over Diego Pavia the best move that we have? And how has he had such an impact on the team in such a short amount of time?
Well, I think he's the missing link, and that's what we need. You always need that leader on the field. Corey, as you know, as a longtime coordinator, coach, you got to have a general out there on the field. And I'll tell you what, all the guys in black and gold, they follow Diego Pavia, and it's fun to watch. They pick the guy up. They love the guy, and they play hard for him. And then he passes it on. I'm really grateful to see his gratitude, attitude, how he loves Jerry Kill, how he loves the Union, their offensive line.
The Union, I love that.
Great time to be a Vanderbilt Commodore. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And this is such a fun team to watch. But like hearing Diego Pavia's comments in the post game, like obviously against Alabama, he's completely jacked up. But like against Kentucky, he took ownership. Hey, the offense didn't do what it was supposed to do. Defense carried us. Love Jerry Kill. Would die for him. Would never quit on him. And love the Union. They fought hard. All that good stuff. But man, that dude. I've never seen I don't want to say never because there's quarterbacks out there that have done this, but you rarely see guys like Diego Pavia who are just oozing with leadership. And it's so refreshing to see guys just jump on board with that. And a team like Vanderbilt, who was, and we've talked about this, who was pitiful last year. Like this is a completely brand new team.
Yeah, it starts at the top. And I think Clark Lee has made everybody known that. I've seen interviews of late and where he had to look at himself and say, hey, this is what I like to do, but do players like it? He's become a player coach friendly guy. I mean, you got to make it a great environment for guys that want to come to work every day. Winning or losing, you got to have a great environment. And he's built that up, and he's surrounded himself with we're going to talk about the strength coach in that department and the offense. And we know his expertise. So everybody is doing their strength-based training, the things that they're really strong in and things they know about. And it's a very exciting time to see people all in the right lane, or if you will take it another step, all on the bus in the right seats. It's very, very exciting times.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that he looked at when he looked in the mirror and when he decided back in November, it's time to make some changes, or I'm going to be in a different outfit next year, as possibly as a defensive coordinator at Baylor next year or whatever. But bringing in Jerry Kill, I think just the impact of that alone, I think, has sent ripples throughout the entire program because Jerry Kill comes in with his expertise and we've talked about what he brings to the table, so there's no need to necessarily go through everything, but the mentoring that he's been able to do, what's it like having a guy like that? I know your head coach probably, because you've been a head coach, you've been a successful head coach for a long time. It's a similar situation. You're kind of in an advisory role too, and different roles within the program. Like that's valuable to have that as a head coach on your side, in your ear, constantly saying, okay, hey, let's do this, let's do that. Let's look at this. Clark, have you looked at things in this light? And that's refreshing to see. And that's probably been the biggest thing that Clark Lee, or the best move that Clark Lee could have made for himself, obviously for the team, bringing in Diego Pavia. But Jerry Kill, his impact has been tremendous.
Well, that's a great point, Corey. And I think the biggest thing that he's getting across, and what I try to get across as a seasoned coach, I don't say we're old, I say we're seasoned.
Seasoned, yeah.
Hey, you're in there with the players, and you're having the day-to-day operations with those players, and more importantly, with those coaches, making sure that they are eliminating emotional interference, making sure they're keeping the main thing, making sure the things that we're working on are things that we're going to see on Saturdays, making sure we're developing our players the right direction. Really a guiding hand, if you will. That's what seasoned coaches on your staff do for other coaches. And it's really good to have a balance of that. Have some seasoned coaches, have some young aspiring coaches that you're only going to be able to hold on to for a season or two, and they're going to go be coordinators. And that's what Clark Lee is hopefully going to be able to develop there at Vanderbilt. Have some assistant coaches that are going to want to be a coordinator at another university and go and get their stripes there. And then we can bring in other guys, and Kill can stay on the staff and the offensive staff and the strength staff. And the main guys in those main roles can stay in those developmental roles and really get into developing great assistant coaches, developing sound football players, because really at the end of the day, we not only strategically beat them, but we also beat Kentucky and Alabama, all our victories, and even the losses, we were fundamentally sound. Now, you got to get inside those meetings, and we're not there, but like taking risk at 4th and 1 versus Alabama, taking a risk. We had a near miss. We threw a pass to Eli Stowers Saturday night that was going into so they take their shots. They're all premeditated. The opportunity right before the half, Corey, that's a seasoned staff, not taking a timeout, not going to have any more time on the clock. They had one play they knew was going to work. And you know it, as a coordinator, they've been setting that play up for how long? They've probably been setting it up since they did their summer scouting report. I mean, let's be real. They probably did that play with Hodgins running the in and out to the flag, the front pylon. I mean, all that was a flag. That was a flag, a smash type of route. And so, yeah, that's right. So, that's what the season staff does. And the thing about going forward from this season to next season, people better look out, and people are going to come visit their staff, talk to them about offensively, talk to Clark Lee. But you know what? It's all fundamentally sound things. Double teams. We talked about it pre-show, about those and zone blocking, and that's what they're doing, and that works. A running game travels, Corey. You know that back for all your life. Growing up as a kid, your dad coaching. You got to be able to run the ball and stop the run, and that's what it all. So it's exciting, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I've noticed about this staff is there's no panic, right? There was no scrambling. There was no it was just standard operating procedure in that 2-minute drill there right before half. And they just surgically maneuvered the ball down the field and then delivered that to Hoskins. And that looked like practice. Yeah. And
great point. And that's the thing that they're able to do now. They're getting in sync. They're getting on the same page. I think that they're even going to be better and better and better this season. Now, we've got some big challenges coming up. Ball State's coming up. Texas is coming up. Georgia's coming up. Tennessee and so forth.
Thankfully, we don't get Georgia, but
okay, I was hoping for Georgia because I think
piece of them. Yeah,
they're right for the pickings too.
Yeah, but it's South Carolina, Auburn. Texas, South Carolina, Auburn, LSU, and Tennessee are the remaining conference games. All of those are right for the pickings. Tennessee is falling apart. LSU is pretty dang good right now, but they're like this. South Carolina is playing some really good football, but again, they're like this. And then Auburn I'm not sure what's going on with Auburn, but
one of the things too that we talked about in the last couple of weeks in the department I'm in at Prattville High School, overseeing the strength and conditioning and seeing the evolution of a season. Like right now, we're really focusing on the younger guys. And it'll be interesting for our discussion just where we think they are with their weight program and the difference it's made. I mean, think about it. Yes, we've had some injuries, but the backup guys, there's not much drop off. So you're building within, you build in depth at Vanderbilt. And that when I played, that was the hardest thing. When we were 4-0, we lost our inside linebacker, we lost our strong safety, we lost a lineman on offense and defense, and we never recovered from that. We got them back later on in the season, but it was very hard because of that. We did not have the depth that I see Vanderbilt having the depth Saturday night and going forward. So, and that's a tribute to the strength and conditioning program.
Absolutely. We'll dive into that real quick next. So stay tuned. Hey, Vandy fans. Hey, Locked On Vandy fans. It's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pooled over $10,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive changes, and with the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring that all the funds go to the specific player that you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. So, who are we supporting this week? Who's our player of choice? Who's the player of the game, Kurt?
I don't know.
Let's go Brock Taylor.
Brock Taylor, you're the man.
Let's go Brock Taylor. All right, the Brocket, Brocket launcher.
Hard to signal out guys, You got some guys. I love the old in the ball. I love everything about it,
Yeah. Let's go with the Brocket launcher. Give some kickers some love here. So we just pitched in $100. I'd love for you to join me. Even $10 makes a difference. So let's show the Brocket launcher, Brock Taylor, the love and keep him supported and connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets up your team for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter referral code Locked On, and you're entered. Already on Roy? Well, any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. So no purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return on you for more info. Support the players, change the game. All right. We are back. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Make sure you keep it locked. Make Locked On SEC your second listen. Kurt Page is still with us. We're talking strength and conditioning now. We've, off-season moves, man. It just seems like everything is clicking right now. Strength and conditioning has been a really big foundation since January. Coach Steiner's implemented a program that not only tackles the mental toughness issues that Vandy went through in their abysmal 2-10 season, but they've gotten bigger, stronger, faster, and the injury prevention, knock on wood, has been much improved, and there's been some quality depth that's been developed. So let's start there, and we'll work back towards mental toughness. But like the quality depth, how do you think their program is designed? I'm interested to know. But it seems like they're developing guys just beyond the starter level.
Yeah, I think so, Corey. I think the big thing that we're seeing, or when a guy gets injured or a guy gets some depth, we need a backup to get in there. I think it was Tom Rinaldi. He got in there at linebacker position for starter, right?
Yeah.
Basically, he got in there. He talked about it in his press conference after the game. How the love was from Broom, wanting him to be successful, and the kid that he was replacing. And more so than that is he was physically, mentally, and emotionally, he was ready for that opportunity, and he knew what to do. And Clark Lee. He trusts Clark Lee. He trusts Coach Steiner. So they had him ready. And there's nothing else better than a football player knowing that he's mentally, emotionally, and physically, he's ready to perform and knows his job at hand. And that's the biggest thing I see the whole staff. And it starts at the top because Clark Lee is giving that direction, and he's giving ownership to that strength coach. He's giving ownership to a lot of the players, and they're accountable. And it's really seeing fruits of his labor. It's really seeing his leadership stepping up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's worked on Coach Lee, too, because I've never seen this much emotion shown by him. He's his halftime speeches, his team talks during the week, His messages throughout throughout all summer camp and things like that. Everything has been, he's like yelling at refs, taking up for his guys. He's pumped up on the sidelines. Like I haven't seen that in the previous 3 seasons at all. And now I'm seeing it. And so it leads me to believe that the change is actually taking place. But the strength numbers are great, man. Like we're able to hold up in the fourth quarter too. Like our guys are still strong in the fourth quarter. Our trenches are still pushing guys around in the fourth quarter. Whereas I was concerned about the depth that we had because I wasn't sure if we had enough time for strength and conditioning to kind of develop guys this year. And I was like, okay, we're going to be good. We're going to be hell, but they come fourth quarter against some of these teams, it's going to be kind of difficult. And it hasn't been.
Well, I think one of the things you mentioned was in the trenches. I think there was a key pivotal holding penalty called on Kentucky that we had a good pass rush on the edge. And those guys have the energy and the wherewithal to make that play when it's called upon them to make that play. And they forced a holding penalty. I think there was a pass and a catch and completion, and it's negative yardage from there for the penalty. So that's the big thing is those guys, like you said months ago, he was strategically putting a puzzle together. Now the puzzle is put together. Now it's enhancing certain puzzle pieces, if you will, basically investing in certain groups of guys, and he's subbing in guys early on. The offensive line is going in with a plan. And you see so much, they're not letting their best player just run haywire on our offense, And so Uden is taking care of business there. And then you have the defensive line and the linebackers that understand, making sure we don't have those explosives, And I think we gave up maybe 1 or 2 explosive, if that many. I think, 2 yards was the high number.
Yeah, so, it wasn't much.
So they understand, and that's the beauty of Vanderbilt. And not to say there's not other teams that are playing complementary football, but when you play complementary football and you panic other teams that are high tempo, high pace, throw it around, let's punt 7, 8, 10 times a game, you're not going to beat Vanderbilt. And that's the beauty we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean it's just pressure by like, okay, we know we're going to have limited possessions. You go into the game, that's a stressor. We know that Diego Pavia is going to make the most of his, and he's hard to stop. That's another stressor, and that puts pressure on an offense, and they feel like they have to get big chunks, and teams get out of their identity. Like Alabama could have stayed and played like they did in the first half of the Georgia game, and really just implemented their tempo and really tried to put their stamp on it, and they never really did. They saw that first drive and they said, oh crap, like they got rocked back on their heels and they'd never been there. And it just seemed like they weren't ready for that moment. And so they never really got back to playing Alabama football. And Vandy was able to pounce all over that and take advantage of it. Ryan Williams, aside from that one big catch, was held to 2 catches for 24 yards. Barryon Brown was a relative non-factor for Kentucky. Luther Burden had some scattered production with Missouri in the Missouri game. He had probably the best day out of all the star receivers that Vandy's played so far. But even then, they made him work for it. But they're putting stress on these teams, which is great. Their mindset is, hey, we're not going to panic. We're going to do our thing, and we're going to force you to panic. And that, I think, goes back to Clark Lee's philosophy on defense. We're gonna give you our game. Jerry Kill and Tim Beck's philosophy on offense. Hey, we're gonna make you stop us. Right? We're not going to panic based on what you're doing. And then Coach Steiner instilling that mindset and saying, hey, stick to the plan. It's all the mindset. And Vandy that's how they're winning.
Yeah. And it travels too. I mean, it travels on the road. It travels rainy conditions. It travels wherever you do. I mean, basically they are dictating and they are declaring the identity of the game. And you saw at Kentucky, they went with a 2-quarterback system. They had an off week. They decided, okay, we don't have the rushing attack. We need to add one player. So they had a quarterback that's a good athlete. So now they had run that identity. They played a 1-point game to Georgia, and I don't think that kid even played at quarterback. So
Kentucky panicked. Kentucky does not believe in what they do. It is obvious.
Yeah, and you've hit on the head about their offensive coordinator. Their offensive philosophy is none, and so, when you don't have anything and you try to do everything, you do nothing and do nothing well.
Yeah.
So it's limited possessions. We're going to run the shot clock down. We're going to come out of the huddle with 10 seconds. We're going to snap it with 1 second. We're going to force you to tackle us. And then we're on defense. We're going to keep everything in front of us. We're going to cause you to get in some third downs. And if you got a good play caller, or if you don't have a good play caller, you're going to be punting a lot, So it's very exciting to see us mentally, emotionally, and physically just really outplay, outthink, out-hustle, outdo the other teams. And, and that's the mindset. And that travels, no matter who we're playing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's the mindset has been phenomenal all season long, except for that Georgia State game, which that's a totally different animal. I think there was some other things at play there, but we're going to talk about, because they're going to have to figure out ways to manage the road environment. Some of these really tough upcoming games. We'll talk about that in just a second. All right, NFL fans and college football fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sports book. All right, we are back. We are wrapping up the show here with Kurt Page. Man, this has been a fun season for Vandy. Thanks for making us your first listen, by the way. Thank you for you everydayers that come back each and every day. The view counts are going up. Now tell your friends to hit that little subscribe button so that they know where to come back to every single time. It's effort-free. You don't have to do anything. Just click that subscribe button and get in on the action every single day here on the Locked On Vandy podcast. So we're talking about mindset, right? And it goes a long way into like the mental toughness aspect of it, right? Is something that there's a lot of aspects to mental toughness, right? Pushing through fatigue, which that goes through like strength training and Coach Steiner putting them in adverse situations, right? That's understanding down and distance when you're tired. And that's a combination of the offensive philosophy plus strength and conditioning, understanding different nuances of fundamentals and not having your fundamentals break down when you get tired. That's all part of game training. But part of the mental 100% above the neck training is things like managing the road environment. I say that a lot, right? We managed the road environment terribly against Georgia State. And the conditions just got us out of our game. And that's what the road is supposed to do to teams. That's why they call it home field advantage. So Vandy did a much better job, but there were some things that they couldn't quite finish against Missouri. That would have been a hell of an upset. And then this past weekend at Kentucky, I thought this was the best they looked on the road by far because the crowd didn't affect them. The conditions didn't affect them. It just seemed like they were just out there. And so what do you think goes into managing the road environment? Like, what do you think, how does that sound? And like, what are the factors, the key factors that can turn into emotional interference when you play on the road?
Well, I think the thing that we're not suspect to is forgetting our identity. When you go on the road, you got to have an identity. And we've talked about it numerous times in this show and previous shows with you, Corey. We know what we're going to do, and it's just like you say, standard operating procedures. And when you have that in place, you have a great chance for success. I mean, we haven't even talked about the potentially horrific injury we were dealing with as a Vanderbilt player, and we had to reset. The whole stadium had to have a reset, and all we did was pick up the pieces. We got you back. We're pray for that you're going to be healthy and recovered. And the young man was. He was there on the sidelines. So we had to reset from that, and nothing set us back, and nothing derailed what we were going to do. And having the identity, it really makes a huge difference. And I think at Georgia State, we were still trying to figure out, was this just smoke and mirrors? Are we really there? Who's our really leader? Who's this? Who's that? And then when we went to Missouri, we found out that, hey, we got a good ball club. And if we do the way that we're supposed to do, we can win, and we do it right. And then I think, we had time to practice that, and there were other meetings to come, So they're surprised. They weren't, yes, they were surprised and excited that you want to be at every victory, but like they do the 24-hour reset, and they have identity. These are the plays we're going to run. These are the defenses we're going to call. This is the special team, special forces, the we team. This is what we're doing. And I think that's what eliminates emotional interference. When you don't know what you're doing, or you're adding stuff at the 11th hour, or you're worried about this, and who's going to replace this injury, who's going to replace that injury, blah, blah, blah. That is emotional interference. And then you start trying to figure out, try to reinvent the wheel. We talked about a pregame show on some other teams, and so you can't do that stuff. You got to have your identity. It travels. Go do what you do and do it to the best of your ability, and then it'll be good enough. And that's where Clark Lee is at with his staff, with his players, and his whole community.
Well, it sets a tone of belief too. Like when you have your identity and you reinforce that, and then that belief gets reinforced by a victory. I think that happening against Alabama reinforced the idea of, hey, if we play to our identity and we make them react to us, then, no matter where we play, home or away, it could be in Tiger Stadium or it could be right here at First Bank. It doesn't matter. We play to our identity. They have to react to us, and we get to dictate the terms of the game. It's going to go well for us because that's our wheelhouse, right? We go try to play their game. Like if we try to play like Texas, we're going to get blown out of the water.
Right.
But if we force Texas to react to us and try to stop us from playing our game, then we have a chance. Now Texas is loaded, so that might be a tough game regardless. But there's a chance there that you could be in it in the end with a really legitimate shot at winning that no one in this country, no one in this world probably thinks that beating Texas is a possibility right now after watching them play. But again, Diego Pavia, you always have a chance.
Yeah, he's a winner. He's a champion, and the kids believe in him, and the coaches believe in each other. And it's a great story. And you called it early in the summer, Corey. You called the upset victory of Virginia Tech. What had to happen, and it happened.
Mm-hmm.
Then a score. We need to be right there, nipping at their tails, and that's what they did. And end up winning in overtime. And everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. At Georgia State, it happened for a reason. Missouri, reason. We got a very good kicker. He can make 31-yard field goal blindfolded.
Yeah.
He did that afternoon, but he was money. He's been money ever since. So that's what he needed, and that's and for them to respond with those negativity things, negative plays. I think they're back to neutral. That's the big thing in emotional interference is you can have positivity and you're going to have some negative plays, but you got to get back to neutral and go back to your fundamentals or go back to your training. And I think that is where Vanderbilt is above and beyond what they were last year, of course, and years in the past, no doubt.
Yeah, there's just the emotional swings just aren't there. And this is what's uncharacteristic about Alabama is now they have those emotional swings where under Nick Saban they never did. They were just cold-blooded assassins basically, and they're just taking everybody out. And then Nick Saban leaves and they start going like this with their emotional meter, and they can't handle themselves. They couldn't handle adversity. They couldn't ever reach center. Vanderbilt never flinched. Right. Vanderbilt just, they're going crazy over there. Let's just keep at it, right?
And you see it on the players, their body language. They make a really good play, they get excited, they high five, and then it's back to neutral. Positivity. And even if they miss a tackle or drop a ball or miss a block or whatever, we don't get to see all that sometimes unless you're studying from the coaching film. But then they get right back to neutral. and they go back to their training. What does their training tell them to do? Take the play side step, rip and dip, whatever the training is for every position, and they get back into that. And that's the fun thing. And you see that. And we're going to be a tough team. I mean, I don't know how many more games we'll win. I don't know any of that stuff, but I do know if they stay in that neutrality where they're right there, and they're going to be very, very successful. And I think that is what the missing link has been for us for years now.
We've got to win 2 more if our prediction is going to hold true, right? Ball State, and somebody else, which I think Auburn's right there for the pickings. Yeah. But hell, let's just run the table. What do you say? Run the table and get to Atlanta. What do you think about that?
That's beautiful. Yeah. Rumors about College game day, so maybe that'll happen too.
So College game day.
That'd be exciting for Nashville.
That will be exciting for Nashville. That'll be something that'll be a lot of fun for that Texas game. So, but Kurt, thanks for joining me, man. This has been fun. Last thing before I let you go, really quickly, 21 personnel. Cedric Alexander, AJ Newberry talked about it on yesterday's show with Eli Stowers. Love that personnel group.
Well, I think they're the best athletes they have. They're explosive athletes. They can catch the ball, as they've shown. They can also run the ball. They catch pitches. They block for each other. I mean, I saw an ISO block for Diego on the ISO weak quarterback ISO, and
it was a G lead, I think, is what it was.
Yeah, man, he flattened that guy. So they're doing everything. They're playing team ball. They're blocking for each other. They're catching for each other. They're running that football. They're getting to the next line. So it's exciting. And that's the thing, too. A lot of teams don't see a lot of that. You know that, Corey. I mean, you're a play caller. You're putting stress on the defense. You really are. You're attacking with another person, and another person coming downhill at you. So it's exciting. And Pavia will run the football, and he'll sprint out, and he's getting guys in the flats and getting guys in the flood patterns and picking up crucial yardage that is needed in the passing game to keep them from just coming inside and blitzing inside. And
doing it all with a cool head. So, Kurt, we got to make this more regular, man. I know this football schedule's been crazy for you with all the things going on down at Prattville, but we got to make this a little bit more regular, man. And we got to have you back more often, man. This has been a lot of fun. If not for anything, that lamp is definitely an added bonus to this show. But
got me that Doug page, and like shout out to Doug and Corrine and my first granddaughter Lila. So,
okay. Congrats on that.
Training for Amazon in Tampa, and just a blessed time to be a grandpa for the first time.
Oh yeah, congrats, Papa Page. What's your granddad name?
KP.
There you go. Hey, very simple, KP. All right. Well, thanks, man. That's all we got. We'll see you back here tomorrow. As always, behave yourselves and anchor down.